Season 2 of the Behind the Mask podcast is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Here at Behind the Mask, we acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the original storytellers and custodians of the land on which we live and meet today. Behind the Mask is a podcast about sharing authentic stories. And in continuing that legacy of storytelling, we acknowledge that we're honouring and celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' traditions, customs and stories. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
The first boy that got up goes, "I don't like you guys making jokes about my dead dad." And I was like, internally, I was like, yeah, no shit.
Oh, God.
They give each other shit about absent family members, about money, hot siblings, death. Yeah, or divorce, or dad pissed off.
Create the safe space for your mates. It's difficult for a lot of blokes because we still have this, I need to be the fixer, I need to be the macho one. I guarantee you'll have better conversations, you'll have a better connection with your mates, you'll get to learn so much more about them if you create the safe space. And if no one in your friend group is going to do it and you're thinking about it, it's you.
There's also an interesting stat that Triple M put out where it's like 70% of men want to help their mates, but 48% of men don't want to ask their mates for help. So what that means is every guy wants to help their friend because it's powerful, I'm looking after you, but I don't need help, I'm all good. I'll deal with it myself. But if my mates need me, I'm there for them. So that leaves us in this gridlock where we only want to help, we don't want to receive the help.
Calling it in. It happened at work the other day. Calling someone in is so much better than calling someone out. It's like,
it makes you less defensive.
Less defensive straight away. And
because blame is going to bring up the defences.
And more willing to listen into what the person has to say.
I'm Josh Pitterman and welcome to Season 2 of the Behind the Mask podcast. This show is about our diverse and extraordinary guests whose authentic stories have challenged them and changed them. They'll share the tools and wisdoms they use to find purpose, bliss, and a greater sense of meaning to their lives. And together, we'll unpack and ponder some of the more pressing and existential issues facing our society. Get ready to be inspired by the depths of the human experience. It's time to go behind the mask. In Australia alone, every 3.5 hours, a man takes his own life. That's 7 men a day, over 200 a month, and over 2,500 each year. In the States, it's 1 man every 13 minutes. And in the UK, the leading cause of death in men under the age of 45 is suicide. We have a mental health crisis amongst men that is sort of out of control. And it's affecting them negatively, it's affecting their relationships, it's affecting families, it's affecting communities. In 2022, performer Rob Mills wrote a book putting on a show, Manhood, Mates and Mental Health, which brought a curious lens to the current state of masculinity. Organisations like TommorowMan are leading the way by empowering young men to redefine a healthier version of masculinity, one that has a positive impact on them as well as everyone that they love. So with all that said, it's time to go behind the mask of masculinity. And I'm joined in the Roland Media studio today by OG facilitator at TommorowMan, Ryder Jack, and author, performer, media personality, and honestly, proud to say one of my great mates, Rob Mills. Welcome to the Behind the Mask podcast, gents.
Good to be here. Thanks so much. That's a morbid intro for us, but staggering
intro.
Staggering facts and just astounding. Yeah, I looked into it a few years ago with the book and still try and talk about it as much as possible. Talk to your good friend Tommy Harkin for the book. From TommorowMan, someone I've known and admired for such a long time as a great human being, but also a great facilitator. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Look, we're getting better. I am eternally an optimist. So I like to
So
think
it should be.
I like
think
to
we
think
need to
that
be.
we are getting better. Blokes are learning. They're getting a bit more self-aware. They're asking more questions. There's more of these kind of conversations being had. But I'm sure, Ryder, you're doing the work. You're noticing the kids. Are they having the conversations at a younger age?
I swing between feeling really hopeful and then feeling really hopeless. I was with a group of Year 11 boys yesterday, and we were looking at this idea of how to bring people closer, because we do a lot of things to push people away. And a lot of the boys were talking about, I want to be closer to my old man. But they go, my old man does not know how to talk. He does not know how to express his emotion. So these boys are the ones who are going to have to put in the work to teach their dads, which is incredible, but also a big step, very
and
challenging.
hard with dads. A lot of people feel like dads aren't the role models that they want. That vision of patriarchy or that vision of a hero isn't there for them in their dads. And I think we'll get to that with it. Personally, my dad's an amazing man, but not everyone has amazing dads. We're going to be chatting about a lot of heavy, big stuff, and hopefully some positive things as well within it. But in unmasking this topic of masculinity, I'm going to invite you guys to take off your masks throughout this conversation today. And the first thing I want to ask you is, we're already doing this thing of this is hard. Do you guys feel like the hardest things or the most challenging things are for men, young men, all men to navigate in 2024?
Let's start with the definition of masculinity.
Yeah, okay.
And when I looked at the dictionary for this, it just says showing attributes of a man. So I know many masculine women. I know many masculine non-binary people. I know many masculine trans people. So I think we need to really define what it is.
Yep.
I think it comes with a certain dominance or there's a sort of a dominating kind of energy that you might have to show a masculine trait. But I remember speaking to someone else about this, and they said masculinity to me is showing the appropriate emotion at the appropriate moment. I was like, oh, I really like that.
That sounds like a really evolved type of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
So you prefer manhood?
Yeah, maybe, because then it gets rid of the whole toxic masculinity and that thing that gets thrown around all the time that where a lot of blokes are labelled toxic. Like,
how do you feel about that? Like, that's something I really want to.
It just generalises blokes, and
do you feel
dare I say not all men? I don't want to be the guy that says it, but it is not.
Do you feel like it doesn't offer an aspirational alternative? Like, it's like you're either a toxic masculine and almost that's what you are inherently, and then you can aspire to be not toxic.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just being a better bloke. I like
what would you prefer if, like, I know a lot, even feminist groups, and, I listened to a podcast episode of Diary of the CEO where they talk a little bit about this, and what do you sort of feel like a better versions of
the word feminist even because it has negative connotations for some women. I remember talking to someone about that, about feminists, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to be a feminist." They're like, "You probably should. You probably should be." This is a female. I was like, "You probably should be." Like, I'm a allied feminist. I'm a feminist. It's a good word. It's it's just equalitarian.
Equal playing field. Yeah, equal playing field.
What do you feel like would be a better, spectrum to be on that you could go? Is it mature to immature? Is it evolved to unevolved? Like what? Because that was quite whatever your friend said about
showing the appropriate emotion.
Like that, I think that's really evolved.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not just not toxic.
Yeah, it's like cry when you need to cry. Hug your kids when you need to, or hug a mate when he needs a hug. Also, tell your mate that he's been a fuckhead. If he's being a fuck, like, you can be both. You can be both vulnerable and also be strong with your mate. I think that's what good masculinity is.
A lot of boys and men think, though, the only emotions they're allowed to show is either happy or angry.
Is that what you find?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when they're children, it's almost their superpower of their emotional range. They can switch from this to that, but we kind of cut it out of them. I like what your definition of masculinity that you looked up. Boys are scared of the word feminine, but imagine if we could take gender out of those words and you got masculine, feminine, yin, yang, like whatever you want to call it. Like, the feminine traits are the things that are going to make you a solid mate. The feminine traits are the things that are going to make you a good partner, father, whatever the hell you want to be.
What are those traits?
tenderness, affection, care, just being chill and peaceful. Like,
Communicative.
yep.
Yeah.
Holding space.
Yeah.
Listening and really hearing someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Recovery. Not just high octane like mask operate, which we love. And
You mean like switching off and that sort of recovery? Not having to be like,
I'm going to relax by going to the gym.
Yeah.
That's how I relax. All right, sounds real chill.
I've been that guy.
Yeah. So you're right. Like, toxic masculinity is a very heated and scary word. And I love your version of masculinity. Like, there's so much like range and flex with that. And boys are just so terrified of being seen as weak or soft. And they're all masking. If we're here to talk about masks, like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about anything. When deep down, all they do is they want to be seen. They want to be respected. They want to have a sense of belonging.
They want to be loved.
They want to be loved.
Like every human on the planet. Yeah.
And they feel like when their parents are sad or when their friends are sad, they hold it in and they don't talk about it until you do a workshop and you're like, you get to hold the space for them and they're like, oh, I was actually really sad about that. But that's okay. Being sad is like when you're a kid, when you're much younger, you cry. It's okay to cry. And then once it's done, it's like, oh, God, release, done. Let off the, I always like to call it letting off the pressure valve.
Oh, yours is nice and mine's like taking a big shit.
Oh, yeah.
Your one's much nicer.
Also, that's a release the pressure valve. It's like a real literal like definition or example of it.
But on the fear of being sad, when you're talking about like masculinity or performing masculinity, it is all about banter. It's all about being the funniest person who can cut people down, who's got the sharpest wit, whatever you want to call it. So as a result of that, that's how they think they've got status or currency or clout or whatever you want to call it. They're very scared of being the sad guy. Very sad. And we know that you have to be sad in life. Like it's
just another emotion.
Yeah, exactly. So yesterday with this group I was with, one of the guys wanted to shout out his mate and he was like, Rob, like, I know you're going through a really hard time a few months ago, but you're over it now and you seem better and that's good. And I was kind of like internally thinking like, well, maybe he's not. And like, that's okay if he's not. Like, it's great that you were there for him, but...
he was trying to applaud him. Like, he was trying to say that he did a good job getting over his things.
Over it.
Yeah.
But also, does it make it easier for him to have a mate who's over it and then he doesn't have to do the hard stuff of being there for a mate who's going through stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Jinx. It's uncomfortable and we need to prepare boys better to sit in discomfort because what do they do when they're uncomfortable? Crack a joke. Distract.
Yeah.
Take the piss.
Yeah.
They're not good at it.
Or distract themselves. Just pick up the phone. And I noticed this. This is with my nieces over the weekend. Took them out to see a lovely musical theatre show. Took them to see Beauty and the Beast. Lovely. It's beautiful. Yep. Disney, they just nail the morals.
I didn't want to ruin it.
They nail the morals. Anyway, I just noticed I made a very conscious effort not to get out my phone, talking about distraction. Like, I'm going to be with the kids, just get the phone out only when I needed to use it. And that was to message my brother, to let him know where we were, also to message my partner to say, hey, can you come and meet us here? I literally picked up the phone twice, but both times the kids were straight on. Like, it gave them permission to have a go at this. I was like, whoa, no. Please put your phones down. Stay with me here. Just like,
How old are they?
They range from like 12 to 16.
Okay.
And I was gobsmacked. It's like on a holster. Like, it's so quick, ready to go, ready to look up the next Snapchat that their friend had sent them. Or wow. I mean, I think we're all guilty of it. But
so addicted.
That distraction is the worst thing. You need to take that time to just sit with the thoughts, sit with your feelings, sit with whatever. Sometimes even just sit in silence with a mate.
Being emotionally responsible, like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Not being reactive, sitting with it so that you can respond in the right way. That's actually being accountable for your stuff too, in a way. Just having time to acknowledge what you're feeling so that you can process what you're feeling so that you can respond with action in a way that is response-able. You know, that's like what is responsible. It's the ability to respond, you know.
I like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You get a few little...
We're here to learn. We're here to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Picking up.
Listen to what's growing.
Write that down.
Do you guys ever feel, because I've felt like this a couple of times in relationships, that on the other side of the spectrum, we're going back to the toxic masculinity, or even, you know what, let's move to misogyny, that you diminish your innately masculine impulses, which is maybe to be assertive or to be argumentative, to challenge things, because you don't want to risk being misogynist.
Ooh.
Or you don't want to risk being toxic, and you sort of, you become confused as to...
Yeah. I feel like you're saying a point here that is, I think a lot of blokes are feeling at the moment. Who am I if I can't yell, or I can't scream, or can't argue, or isn't it my right to be able to, to have a heated discussion, and is this toxic, or is it just me trying to, explain myself? I think for a lot of blokes, no, there are better ways, and this is what
we put it into binary categories when it's actually not.
Possibly, I think there is a better way to get at your feelings than rage, but
not rage. I'm talking about like even just being assertive, or even challenging something that you go, oh no, I want to soften here because I don't want to.
Oh yes. You don't want to push the envelope. Look, I think it depends on your relationship. It depends on your partner. It depends on where you're at. I think it depends on the other person. I've got a really great relationship with my fiance where we just go for a walk. I think that's the best way that we end up discussing all the things that we need to discuss. There's something about the not looking at each other as you're walking gives you more freedom to be vulnerable or be open to say the things that maybe that are pissing you off about them. Or like, hey, you really annoy me when you do that. Well, you annoy me. All right, okay, cool. Like it's a really healthy way to get your stuff out on a long walk. I think I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I think it's different for every single person.
Yeah.
Boys feel under attack. So think about it. They've grown up during cancel culture. So boys, I notice at the start of workshops, are very careful. So usually when there's all this like conscious or unconscious homophobia flying out, they're kind of like very careful because they don't want to get cancelled. Like kids literally get cancelled at schools now.
Really?
I hate that so much.
Sorry?
I hate that so much.
So what does that mean? You can't you can't hang out with us at recess, or
no? Like they're basically getting suspended for doing the wrong thing, but the kids will go, "Oh, he got cancelled because he was sending these pics," that kind of thing. Right. But I had a boy come to me late last year, and he goes, "I don't understand why we're getting punished for previous generations' mistakes." And I was like, "That's like a powerful thing to say."
Very.
But with what you were saying about like social media, like this generation aren't angels. Like this younger generation aren't angels either.
No one is.
No, and that's what
they're pushing the boundaries to know where the boundaries are of good behaviour, bad behaviour,
which we've always done.
Always, but with social media now, you can send what would have been, I imagine, a bit of banter in the playground between one another. You can get away with so much more by writing things that you would definitely never say face to face. You might say it. Like, I'll give the example of like schoolyard banter. You might say something about one of the other kids at school. And that's it. It's done. It's done in that moment. It's just a rumor, or maybe it spreads. Did you say that? Oh yeah, I did say that. Or no, I never said that. But when it's written down, it's forever. When it's on your Snapchat or it's on your Instagram or whatever it is, it's forever. It's like there's something so much weightier about it, when really it's just the same thing.
And it's happening after school as well. With these boys yesterday, some of them were boarders from regional towns, and it was all about, so I was trying to get them to a point where we could list what's below the line banter, what's stuff where it's like, nah, that's not okay. And the whole time at the start with the masking, it's all about how much you can cop. I really respect Rob because he can just cop it and take it.
That's right.
And he never complains about it. So we had to like spend a little bit of time unpacking that, of going like what the hell does that even mean? Like how much shit he can take about people saying stuff about his mum or his siblings or that kind of stuff. I found it, really fascinating. And we finally got them to a point where boy after boy jumped up. Like the first boy that got up goes, I don't like you guys making jokes about my dead dad. And I was like, internally, I was like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
And
That's what they hit them.
yeah.
Oh, God.
They give each other shit about absent family members, about money, hot siblings. Yeah, classic.
I mean, I had that growing up.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of.
But so everyone's giving each other shit about each other's mums.
Death.
Yeah, death. Yeah,
That,
or
like, death, like,
divorce,
that's
or dad pissed off. All of that.
Really heavy stuff. Like, this is the stuff that we spend years in therapy on, abandonment issues, like, you know, dealing with, you know, mortality and death and stuff. Like, I can't believe, like, we didn't go that far as kids.
Yeah, I don't know. But the problem is, so the boy that's copping stuff about his mum, he dishes it out just as much. So everyone's confused. No one's setting a boundary.
Yeah.
So I finally said, hey, I relate to the disrespecting family members one. I've got a beautiful mum. I'm proud of how beautiful she is. And when I was your age, people would say stuff about her and I'd kind of give them shit about something else and laugh it off. But deep down, that hurt a lot because my mum is one of the most powerful people I know. She had stuff happen to her as a child that never should have happened, and that defined her in a way that she just shows so much positivity and care to people. So when the guys were saying stuff about my mum, I would think about all that stuff about her, and the impact was, I'm not going to invite you over to my place. Like, my mum's cool. She lets us do whatever we want at our place, and if you're going to talk about her that way, you miss out. You don't get to, like, have the honour of knowing her.
So you were wise enough at that time to create healthy boundaries around what was acceptable and what was unacceptable behaviour towards you from your mates.
Well, I
because it had
set
repercussions.
the boundary, but I didn't voice that, hey, boys, when you say that to me, it hurts.
No, but you did say, hey, if this is how you talk, you're not coming over.
Yeah, you miss out.
Well, there was a boundary there, even though it might not be as
I didn't say it that directly.
Okay, yeah.
But I was like, I'm not inviting you over. You miss out.
Can I also make a point? Like, I am a big fan of banter, and it's something that we do as blokes, and it's the best. And the boundaries are super important, but to know what they are at such a young age is very hard. I'm so great that these workshops are helping boys, like that one kid to go at least, or actually, I don't really like, that's too far. But then it means if it does come up later on, or if the kid could be like, hey, do you remember that time I still don't like, or it gets to the point where I do feel okay about it now. Like, I give shit to my mate, whose parent had passed away. Like I said, it's because you don't have a dad. And like, it's, for us, it is stupid banter. It's horrific, but we're at a level of trust, and he knows that it's only ever coming from a place of love and respect and complete banter. But without, you just can't do that without gaining that trust. That is years and years of like love and like hugs and like knowing that this is coming from a place of love. But
you're probably checking in as well, going, hey.
Always.
Hey, was that
And
too
having
far?
the emotional range with a friend where
Yes, exactly.
if you've never gone vulnerable with a friend, if you've never had that hug, that cry, that time when he's potentially come to you and
Correct.
said, I just feel so alone now without my father or whatever it is.
Oh, yes.
And then you've held each other in that. Then you move to a place where you have banter around it. You know that someone loves you regardless.
Because if
but at a
he's
young age, you
haven't established
If
all
you
that.
haven't established that yet, I'm with you. Yeah.
But once the mate says that, hey, I actually miss my dad and I feel this way, the boys have a choice then to either be pretty shit and keep making fun of him about it, or then going, hey, I get that and I'm not going to go there because you've made it clear. Which
So
you
you're
guys have
asking
obviously...
young men to be very courageous with how they're feeling.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, it's, you're taking off the armor and going, this thing hurts, which is the scariest thing to do because the whole thing is, I don't give a shit. It's just banter.
But it's the strongest thing that they can do.
Yeah. But it's so hard to do with what you were saying about performing masculinity, where it's like you can't back down from it. Like I love your example with your mate. Like clearly there's a lot of history and a lot of communication in there. What about the little redhead boy yesterday he's like, people make fun of me about my hair. And I'm like, how do you think about that? He's like, I don't care. He goes, it's happened for so long, I just don't care. So he was completely masking of just going, it's fine, I don't care. And then it wasn't until the end of the workshop where everyone had taken their armor off, whatever metaphor we used. It was like, it hurts. It hurts a lot because he's like, there's nothing I can do about it.
And what was the response from those around?
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, because you said it at the start before we were recording, like, oh yeah, let's like talk about dopamine and stuff, and like that's what banter is. It's just joy and it's contagious, and we would never tell people not to do it. But my line is different from your line, and it moves. So
there's absolute nuance between each person. It's up to you, and that comes down to self-awareness and awareness of others. Just going back to what you're saying about the boundaries, super important. Never has it been more important to get an actual definition of what boundaries are. We talk about a lot of in relationships. Oh, these upsetting my boundaries. Well, okay. Well, I think this is a very clear example of what a boundary is with your negging or with your banter. I think it's a really important one. Yeah, it's good.
Because it started, because we're trialing this new content and we're like, okay, let's talk about what's below the line banter. And then we tried, what's above the line banter? And some guys were like, family's above the line. And then some guys were like, no, family's definitely not. Like, you can't really change your family. And that was such an interesting conversation of, what's above the line and what's below the line.
It's going to be different for every group.
Completely.
Yeah. I know around, if we had that banter, I'm lucky that my parents are still here, but if we had that banter, I couldn't do death banter. I'm way too sensitive a person for
I would never do.
I know.
And I know this. I'm looking at you now
this
going,
about you, Josh.
I know, but I know this about you. Like, I would never do that with you.
Never go there with Josh. He's a sensitive man. He can't go.
But isn't that cute? Like, you've got a different line with your mate. You've got a different line. And
that's the emotional awareness, and that's respect. Yeah. And that's intelligence to just have a sense of it.
What's emotional intelligence? I'm pretty dumb.
Same. I only have social intelligence. That's it.
Hey, we talked a bit just at the start about fathers and role models and whatnot. It's said, that old saying, that it takes a village to raise a child. That is a phrase from long, long ago. I feel like, in a way, when it comes to Western civilization, that we really do generally rely on our fathers. But in older times, or in different communities, certainly in Indigenous communities and tribal communities, young men were initiated by many older men in that process, from boyhood to young manhood to manhood. Mm-hmm. And now we're maybe at a loss as where to go for other male role models for young boys or men in general. Where are those role models? Where can we find them in society?
Before we go there, young guys are turning a lot of guys are turning to harmful role models because those guys are giving you a quick fix.
Who are those harmful models?
Well, I don't know if boys are as into Tate as they used to be. There's probably new ones, but the reason
if I get Tate hate mail here, fine.
They love him. They love him because he's giving them what they think they want, which is confidence, look good, be attractive.
Yep.
Women want you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all extrinsic motivators, really. Yeah.
So
you can still have all that and also be vulnerable.
100%.
But if that is the motivation for your self-worth, extrinsic things, I don't think you're ever going to be full or ever going to be happy. Like, but hold up, the Merc's not good. I'm going to get the Porsche. Porsche not good. I need the McLaren. What?
Keep chasing.
The Ferrari. Then I'll be worth enough.
He's giving them a simple, quick way how to get it. But you're right. If you ask a boy what do you actually want, he wants more than that. He wants good mates.
Yeah, connection.
Yep. He wants a great, intimate relationship.
Love.
Yep. And if you follow Tate's mantra, are you going to get those things? Probably not. Like, most likely not.
So you're talking about love and connection.
Yeah. And acceptance. And and to be respected. So before we get into that question, we need to think about who are the role models that are giving boys the blueprint. Like, the boys need to, like, I don't know, the saying monkey see, monkey do, but you need to actually
see it to be it.
Yeah, you got to see it to be. You can't just go, follow this guy because he's great. Like, they need to see the action. They need the recipe of how to be a good guy.
I feel like a lot of television over the years, if I look back on it, especially American television, the role models of fathers, like I look at like Married with Children or The Simpsons or American Dad or Family Guy, they're always schmucks. They're always absolute buffoons. Even Phil Dunphy in Modern Family, like he's a sweet guy, but he's a schmuck. Why don't we paint why don't we paint men out to be? They don't have to be a hero, and they don't have to be the patriarchy.
There's enough heroes in the movies, and there's enough heroes in other series, and there's enough heroes in books and stuff. They exist.
Where are the authentic, accepting, connected, loving men as the archetype?
Boring. No one wants that as a story.
No one wants it
because it's fiction.
But is it fiction?
Yes. Oh no. What I'm saying is, it's not. So it's the heroes that you're after, or that people are after, that are salacious, that are things that sell tickets and sell books, are these hero types, right? Like.
So they're not actually the role models that we want.
No, of course they're not.
So where are those men?
That's a fantasy like that we're after, I think. Well, not I'm after, but like when you're a kid, you're after these heroes because they're fascinating, these stories, right? But what you do want, and I think what we're all finding, is just a good guy, is like a good bloke who's there for his kids, who sets boundaries for, is a great role model, is a loving partner, gets on one knee and has good conversations, hugs their kids, tells them off when they need to be told off. Like, that's boring. Like, it's...
They need grit. They need the guy to be like a bit of a badass too. So, I don't know, people that come to mind for me, like I think of Harry Garside, very like physical, very masculine, but then super curious and in touch with exploring his femininity, whether that's through dance, or he did this like big rejection experiment where every day he got rejected for 100 days because boys need to get better at getting rejected, as opposed to like blaming the other person. He comes to mind. Tony Armstrong, like ex-footballer, like fun guy, dresses great, pretty cool, but then also
love Tony Armstrong,
able to express himself.
Tony Armstrong loves Mills.
Oh, does he?
We love. It's a love relationship.
I love connection.
I'm still trying to get to know him, but I definitely got a man crush. Olcott, like Dylan Olcott, he's a legend.
Hamish Blake. I think Hamish and Annie did a really good job of where radio was all about disc jockeys and giving shit and prank calls. They
did their fair share of prank calls.
Sorry,
funny.
It wasn't. But they were very good. But it wasn't just that. It was they created a community with the people that listen in. Which I thought they were what they did for Australia. What Oprah did for America, like just positivity. They wouldn't ever take the piss out of someone if it wasn't. They also taking the piss out of themselves at the same time. It was they're, I think, excellent role models. I'll probably add in someone like he's Hollywood superstar like Ryan Reynolds, charismatic and funny but kind. There's a just definite kindness. Same with Jackman. I think there's a genuine authenticity and a kindness behind them.
What about men you guys, when we talked about Tony Armstrong, what about men you guys really know? And where do you go to for them? Like,
in our lives.
In your lives, men you really know.
Tommy Harkin, obviously. He's one of the greats.
Yep.
I would say my brother is an excellent man. My psych is an excellent man.
Why
is my brother an excellent man?
Yeah.
I think he knows when he doesn't know.
Yeah.
That's a really important quality.
A great quality. I don't know.
I don't know. Or I don't care about that. I don't want to have an argument with you about this because I just don't care enough about it. All I want to care about the things that I can control in my world. Excellent, hardworking, good dad, and I don't want to say stays in his lane, but just knows his lease on life. There's happy with what he has. There's a really lovely quality, especially in a world that we live in of like we need more. He's like, this is enough. Life's good. Wife, kids, house in the verbs. Life's awesome.
I reckon you uphold a lot of those similar qualities.
And because he's one of my mentors for sure.
I've always admired how much you stick in your lane, that you don't let boulders or comparison sort of drive you. You're very, you're always willing to work on yourself, but you're not doing that because you're trying to improve based on what someone else...
Prove it to someone else. No.
But you go, fuck, they're doing that, or it's because you want to improve yourself for you and for the people around you. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yours?
Mine are two men I've got to work with a lot. Ben Crow.
Oh, yeah?
Love Crowy. Mindset coach extraordinaire, but has brought a lot of simple theories and practices into my life. He really challenged me on like not what I want to do, why I want to do it. He really taught me about intrinsic purpose being something that is heart-driven, that comes from me, and it's about the impact I can have on others. That the world isn't what you're going to get from it, it's what you can give to it. And huge lesson.
That's your power.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, but and the way he goes about life, I really, he's such a giver, and just a really beautiful man who you can have blokey chats with and have really deep and vulnerable chats with you, and can hold you in both spaces. Really, he's got so much emotional range. And Asher Packman,
He's a good man.
for Fifth Direction, if Ben's the mindset guy, Asher's the soul set guy. Taught me a lot about what it means to come home to yourself, and what the soul is, and how to communicate from a place of soul, and how to bring soul into everything I want in life.
His stuff is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I did that. The men's circle experience with Asher and a couple of blokes, strangers, just blokes I'd never met before.
Well, there we go. There's something. Men's circles.
Talk about getting vulnerable with a couple of strangers. I mean, that was epic. I loved it.
What
I cried.
kind of stuff did you do in the men's circle with Asher?
Mate, we just sat and talked about. Look, this is my memory is terrible. So
It would have been pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, it was research for the book. I just remember a lot of blokes just talking about how they felt about the world. They wanted to offload some stuff. And I won't share everything that they talked about. The circle is pretty personal, but I just remember feeling so happy and like glad that this space existed for blokes a lot older than me who probably had never done this before, had never spoken aloud about some of the things they were holding deep inside them from like teenage years or their 20s, or it was a full release for a lot of them. And at the end, just hugs and like, yeah, man, great. I mean, this is the first step for a lot of them, but they kept going back. And yeah, I think those circles are super important for a lot of people who need it.
Yeah.
It's poetic when it comes out of them because they haven't like rehearsed it. It's just falling out of them. I'm just even what you talked about before with like men's business. I've been doing this work for over 20 years, and last week, easily one of the highlights of my career, they sent me to a juvenile justice centre just outside of Coffs Harbour, and I had 9 Indigenous Australian young men. And like I was a bit nervous kind of going in there, and they come in and they dab me up, and they're hectic. They're the most like warm, charismatic kids, but they're hectic and they've lived some life. And I couldn't have any of my gear with me because I was in prison. And anyway, they're being chaotic, and luckily one of the boys is reeling them in a bit, going, "Hey boys, respect each other. Let's respect each other." And I didn't have to discipline anyone because I was just like, I trusted that as soon as someone opened up, it was going to happen. Anyway, this boy that was calling everyone in just like starts to talk about his uncle and how he found his uncle after his uncle took his life, and he starts shedding tears. And I'm like, oh, whoa, he's crying in a juvenile justice centre. Like, is this going to be okay? And I put it on pause and I was like, boys, like, how do you guys feel about this? And they're like, nah, it's good, it's all good.
Right.
And he gets to shed his tears and talk about these uncles and all the people he's lost either to jail or to suicide. And it was so unbelievably powerful of just, yeah, you spoke about like a community, like a village raising this guy. And then after that, like Frank the Tank, the alpha kid, starts talking about his grandfather, and his grandfather was the first Indigenous Australian boxer in the Olympics, and spoke about him. And his grandma was the first Aboriginal principal at a school. And this kid was also just such a ripper. Like, he was so charismatic and so beautiful, but the people at the Juvenile Justice Centre say it's safer for him inside here than it is outside there. And it just broke my heart. But like that, to me, these guys had such clear like role models, and even though life hadn't panned out for them, I came out of the workshop feeling inspired but equally as sad, because I'm like, these are some of the best kids I've ever seen. And
this is where they are.
Yeah, and they're not set up for success at all, even though they're so fucking beautiful.
Yeah, someone needs to change with that for sure.
Oh, they're all coming and hugging me, and I was like, because I've got my own little kids, and I'm like, I know what kids need, and
You're not going to get it in. You're not getting it in prison.
Nah. Well, they're getting consistency in there. It's once they're in the adult system, then they're done. Then it's done.
It's amazing that you guys go in there. That they're not that this prison system isn't forgotten on the journey from boyhood to manhood to becoming a better version of a man. It could easily be.
That's not what I thought. Yeah, because not just juvie, but like the prison system itself is not set up to rehabilitate.
No.
It's dreadful.
This gave me more hope though, because they're going to school and New South Wales Rugby are putting them through this rugby program, which the boys just love. And once they get out, New South Wales Rugby try to link them up with the club and give them some sort of consistency, which is amazing. But yeah, the adult system certainly
Yeah, I'm glad that there's these things being implemented. So there's a pathway to reintegrate into society in ways that lift them up rather than just sort of throwing young prisoners back out into the world where they're just going to reoffend and reoffend because that's what they know is the prison system.
These boys, their role models, are either taking their life or in jail as well. Like it's just so systemic and we don't need it's a massive thing to unpack. But yeah, when I think of role models, I was just thinking of the way those kids spoke about their role models. And these kids have made certain choices, but a high percentage of them, it's not their fault.
I don't think we can have this conversation without talking about the fact that, every 4 days a woman loses her life at the hands of a man.
Yep.
And that's just the extreme version. There's many variations on that extreme, which are from, emotional abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, all of it is harrowing. I really want to know, what does TommorowMan do in that space to help young men understand women and their effect on women?
Easy. Not easy, but think about the roadmap. So as you said, we're losing a woman every 4 days. Put a boy through a conveyor belt. They come out beautiful, just like, as I said, full emotional range, can express themselves, dance the way that they want, sing the way that they want, be whoever the hell they want to be. Then we start stripping them of their emotional access. Don't cry, be a man, toughen up. Then once they get to high school, they're like, okay, sweet, my value is of how powerful I am, got to take the piss out of my mates, banter, the boys. Can't be mates with girls, can only hook up with girls, blah-de-da-de-da, can only take the piss with my mates. Then as they get older, their relationships start to get weaker because they're starting to prioritize other things. I'm going to study, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to work, family, blah, 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 blah. And their friendships are getting weaker. They might have an intimate relationship. That person is the only person that they are going to be honest with because they can't talk to their mates about that stuff. No. So they put everything into this relationship. This poor partner is copying kind of all their emotional needs, everything. He's starting to get jealous of the partner because the partner has mates, but he doesn't have mates, so you can't have mates.
Because women find it easier to make friends than men.
Yeah, because they've been practicing it and been trained in it their whole life. So and I'm not condoning this, by the way. I'm just saying what's happening. Yeah. So he's controlling the partner. He's got no mates. He's facing big life problems like mental health, career change, financial people dying, all that kind of stuff. And then the partner gets to a point, I can't do this. I need to get out. Like, this is controlling. I can't be your only person. And this guy has been suppressing all his emotion. He doesn't know how to express it. He doesn't know how to talk to anyone. And that's when we're seeing them do the most horrific things where it's like, well, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt whoever. And I think it's exploded. It's been happening for a really long time, but it's at such a terrifying point at the moment.
The really interesting thing that I hark back to in that is that at the start of the conveyor belt is this beautiful young boy who was free to express, was dancing, was singing, was sharing, was being silly, was being fun, was crying, was needing, was being held, was probably holding in some way. He had so much emotional range. Yes, he doesn't have the intelligence to know when to use things like what you're talking about, what masculinity is at the start, but it's all in there.
Oh,
and then conditioning shifts it.
Yeah.
This is why it's super important to have mates or to curate friendships that aren't just your partner. Your partner can't be everything for you. I've said this so many times, and we see it in mates and relationships. Maybe not so much as we get older. I think we get a bit more emotionally intelligent as we get older. Like to hope so. Turns out we're not. Turns out we're still out there murdering. But it's good mateship. It's good connection. And that only happens once you open up and once you get vulnerable and once you are willing to shed your mask and your armor, whatever, have those vulnerable conversations. Then you start having better conversations with mates. And then the deeper those conversations get, the deeper your connection. And therefore you can talk about your partner, you can talk about your family, and then all the things that you couldn't talk about before are now spread across all your mates.
All these pillars. 100%. Like, teenage boys are like, the boys, my mates are everything. Don't dog the boys. They're only experiencing a small percentage of the potential of that friendship because they're not talking about the real stuff. And spot on, Rob, as soon as you open up and give permission for them to do the same, it just strengthens the relationship and makes it so much more durable, and you can banter, but then you can get into the murky, yucky stuff, and it's uncomfortable, but it's exciting. So to answer your question, what are we doing? We're training boys in the capabilities to give them better life outcomes. So if we spoke about what boys actually want, which we did earlier, so how do they do that? They need to be able to strengthen their relationships with their mates. That's one step. They need emotional range. They need to be able to sense in. Like, Rob's not saying anything. Have I gone below the line with him? Like, follow my gut, like, call it out, like ask him questions or call it in. Boys,
Empathy.
Yeah. We need to understand our power and privilege.
Mate, can we talk about calling it in?
Yep. Instead of calling it out.
This is my new favourite thing.
You loving it?
It happened at work the other day. I was in a musical and someone said, can I call you in? It wasn't for me. They said
and Juliet.
Yeah, and Juliet. Yeah. Just finished up. It's an amazing show. They said, I just had to call someone in. I was like, what? So I didn't call them out. I called them in. So just when you did that, I just noticed it had a bit of a profound effect on the rest of the company, just so you're aware of it. And I just needed to let you know in case it goes further. I just didn't appreciate that behaviour. And I think if you have a look at it or if you want to discuss it, I'm happy to discuss it more. It was a really lovely way. Instead of saying, you're a dick for saying that, calling someone in is so much better than calling someone out. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it makes you less defensive. Less defensive straight away. And
because blame is going to bring up the defenses.
And more willing to listen and be heard you're more likely to listen into what the person has to say. I think it was brilliant.
She's being curious.
Yeah.
Whenever I call out mates at footy, call in mates at footy, I always start with like, hey, I'm only going here with you because I think you're a good bloke. If I thought you're a shit bloke, I wouldn't bother.
Waste my time because I care.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Why would I? But I know you're a good person, so I'm curious. When you said that thing, what do you reckon? How do you reckon the other guys saw it?
Yeah.
So
as opposed to judgment.
Yeah.
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 Leading with curiosity as opposed to judging and shaming someone who's just going to be defensive and just going to feel like shit and probably not going to change their behaviours.
And blokes are definitely far more likely to be defensive than they are willing to listen, to lean in.
Totally.
So the other ones we're trying to teach guys is you got to understand your power and privilege. Like, you have to understand that in certain environments, you have more power than other people. So how to use that for good? Are you putting people down? Or are you lifting people up? And then stuff around like accountability and being able to feel the burn and own up to your shit. Like, I broke up with that person badly and I'm not going to blame them. Like, I was selfish or I was fearful and being able to let your mates do that instead of giving them shit when they go through a breakup or that kind of thing. So the main thing we're trying to do is practice the skill in the room, see other guys do it, and then give them tasks outside of the workshop to practice it as well.
This is something that especially with kids, especially with adults. Like, how many times have you read a book and go, yeah, I'm going to do that? And then just throw it away and then you're back to bad habits. With your workshops, do you go back every couple of months? Or
So it's like a 4-module approach. So first one will be about stereotypes and how they impact you. The second one will be this below the line stuff about how you armor and protect yourself. What are you hiding? What are you showing? Third one is about intimacy and how to expand your idea of intimacy, that it's not this whole like dominant kind of thing. And then the last one is like, well, with everything you know, what kind of man do you want to be? Like, how do you bring your values to life, or what kind of person do you want to be, whatever you want to call it. So repeat interventions, give them tasks in between, work with the teachers, work with the parents, because with what you guys were saying earlier about role models, a lot of these boys, their hero's their dad, but their dad is living by the stereotype. Their dad is like...
What does Tommy say? The dad is the rock of the family. He goes, what is a rock? It's an immovable object.
Yeah, and he drags it down sometimes as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes dads aren't present. You know, they're working so hard to put food on the table. Sometimes mums aren't present too these days with, you know.
I'd say majority
a lot of parents aren't present, like, because we're trying to tackle everything. Hey, I want to, you know, none of us are perfect. Well, Mills, you're close, but
pretty close.
I sort of feel like from reading your book, and just obviously from knowing you, but anyone who's
reading it.
Thank you. I was going to do the audio, but I was like, no, I'm going to read it.
Do the audio?
Yeah, there's extra. I put in extra stuff in the audio book just throughout the chapters. I was like, sometimes I just riffed on what I just read. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Or like, no. I was like,
I was very good though. That was. I'm very funny as well.
There's sometimes I just would say a bit. I think there's a little bit more in the audiobook. Not a whole lot more, but there's just a few times I remember just riffing and then looked at the guy who was recording. I go, is that all right? He goes, it's your book, mate. I was like, okay.
Sure.
Anyway, keep going.
What I did just on a side is when I was reading it, when you read in your voice, but I was reading in Rob's voice.
That's perfect.
Because I know Millsy's voice so well, so that was kind of funny. I actually, green lights Matthew McConaughey's book. I didn't do the audiobook, but I was doing a Matthew impersonation in my head when I was doing that. But anyone who's read the book, and I know you so well, I said before, you're a very self-reflective person. What are the parts of yourself or moments you've had, whether it's in relationships or whatever, where you look back on with regret or shame or go, fuck, I wish I did that better?
I think it'd just be friendships. Like, I feel like I'm getting better at friendships. It's something that I've put so much effort into finding my purpose in my work. And that was more just to prove to myself that I was worth something, or I wasn't just the guy from Australian Idol, the 15 minutes of fame or whatever, you know. There was a bit of that was the drive for a while.
I've had times where I've gone, I want more Mills in my life, but you're not accessible.
Yeah, because I'm just working and I also don't have enough.
There's only so many hours in a day.
So many buckets that that you can pour out of your bucket and you've got nothing left. It's just time to yourself, really. Hence why I think I don't want to do a musical for a long time, because it's 8 shows a week. You don't have time to see anybody.
I feel the exact same
just
way.
At night time, just go around and have
all
dinner.
The sacrifices.
Go to a quiz night at the pub. I really like to do that. That'd be great. That's one. I was carrying around a lot of shame about sexuality for such a long time that I was just like, what am I doing with this? Why is this such a burden for so long? Or
because is this before you explored?
Even before I explored it, and even tried it, and even afterwards, like, oh, what did that even mean? Like, I remember
when you hooked up with guys, you were like, what did that mean?
Yeah, it's like, but am I into this? That was fun. And then I'm like, that's not for me. I remember just going.
But do you feel shame around doing it?
I think I did for a while.
Really?
And then afterwards I was like, met with a few more blokes, or I'd be with a few more people, and then I
just thought you were so brave.
Oh, thank you. I was just trying it out. The thing I wrote about in my book was when we're kids, we're often encouraged to try swimming and footy, cricket, netball, try all these sports. Why not try things about yours?
I've never told anyone this, but when I was like maybe 5 or 6, I would pash on with this other guy at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't even know what we were doing, but we just thought that's what parents do. We just want to know what that felt like.
Yeah.
And we just did it. And I've only ever kissed one guy since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, we're a musical theatre. It's around. It's around. It's around. It's a lot. It's a very attractive man that I've worked with over the years. So I think I was carrying around a lot of shame around that. And then I think just talking to mates about it, and then talking to my psych about it, and then talking to my partner within the first like couple of dates that we had. I was like, oh, just so you know, this is not my entire sexual history, but like this is who I am. I suppose I'm probably a little bit queer, but like she's like, that's great, that's fine. I go, so I remember just her being so comfortable with it. I mean, she's a few years younger than me. I think this next generation is a lot more fluid with their sexuality, which is a word I really like as well now, sexual fluidity, which is kind of cool. But yeah, there's a lot of shame around that for me for a while. And then I realized, and then if I talk about it, I normalize it.
100%.
Then it just gets normalized. I remember when the book came out, the Daily Mail or a couple of papers picked up a couple of things that sexual relationships that I'd had with men. And I was like, oh, you're missing the point of the book. I'm trying to normalize it. You're trying to sensationalize it, which only makes the point worse. It just, you're doing the thing I'm trying to. The only reason I talked about it is not for sensationalism. It was to normalize the thing. So therefore, more blokes would just feel comfortable, like, oh yeah, I just bashed my mate. After footy trainers are trying it out.
It's so important, like, because boys are so scared of it and so homophobic.
Yeah.
So homophobic. I can't wait. I know you only gave me a copy I haven't had a chance to read it because you only gave it to me an hour ago. But
it's not really an erotic novel. I don't go to full dick.
But I just mean, like, imagine if boys weren't so bloody scared of it. Like,
if you try footy, you try cricket, you try, like, just
be curious.
It doesn't define you for forever. It just, if you want to try something, just try it out.
Yeah.
That was my thing. The other mate, to be honest, I don't really regret much. What happens in my professional life. I always
shame more though, where you feel shame towards something. You got to process that.
Yeah, I think relationships. I suppose relationships. You talked about before about breakups, and you're like, oh, I probably wasn't a great person in that breakup, whether it was a professional breakup or a loving partner breakup. There's a few times I think I've gone a bit autistic and just said something very directly and bluntly, and then gone, oh, that's not the right thing to say. You should have probably done that with a bit more tenderness or a bit more care instead of just trying to end it. You should have explained a bit more or a bit less.
That's still better than ghosting. Like,
I hate the ghosting.
Yeah, the ghosting is fucking scary. I've had mates break up with me and ghosted me, and I'm like, I need like a little, need some closure.
Why are we so scared? Why are blokes so scared? Or not just blokes, I think women as well.
There's like a people pleasing element where it's easier to not. For me, it would be impossible to break up with someone and not like mate or in an intimate relationship. Like I'd like that makes me feel so sick. But people aren't prepared to have tough conversations that feel icky. It goes back to everything we were talking about. That they're not well trained. Yeah, having a tough convo going. They don't want to hurt the person. They don't want to have to think about what they've done.
It's their
own selfish guilt as well.
Yeah.
Life is we will always, and this is just the way that we're built. We will always go down the path of least resistance. And now we've got so many things that take us down there, which is like video games or gambling for our dopamine rush or porn or whatever, all those things. So the path of least resistance in a breakup is, well, just want to talk to them.
Yeah, easier.
Which is it's not a very good humane thing to do.
No. Similar to you, my biggest regrets is probably first big breakup, like the one where I was like, this is the worst feeling I've ever felt. Completely running away from that feeling and just trying to band-aid it with different relationships. I was never good at one-night stands, so I would date girls for a couple of weeks because I felt so guilty just not wanting to be with them, which ended up being as worse because I'm kind of leading them on. And then ending it after a couple of weeks. So I think running away from that heartbreak for so long, just going from relationship to relationship, I just think that's so fucking selfish, like so selfish. And I have so much regret for, ex-girlfriends I've had of doing that. And it wasn't until...
Did a mate call you out?
No.
Or call you in? No one called you in?
No.
You called yourself in?
No, well, Sivan, the mother of my children, we've been together for 12 years. I really liked her when we were mates. and she didn't want a bar of me. And I kept like going, hey, like, I really like you. What's going on? And she was like, nah, dude, like, I don't want to be with you. And I left it for like about 6 months to a year, which was the best thing that I ever did because it forced me to have to actually be by myself and process it and do the bloody work. And then as a result, I was like, oh, whoa, I still love this woman. Like,
Yeah.
And then saw Brene Brown's Power of Vulnerability when it first came out, and I was like, I need to tell her how I feel.
Thank you, Brene.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
and then it was on. But
What about as a
if
parent?
she didn't set that boundary if she didn't set that boundary, I don't know if we'd be where we are today.
Yeah.
What about as a parent?
Yeah, I mean,
Every day.
Yeah, I feel
every day. I'm like, I'm such a good guy, but then I suddenly am so like moody and impatient at times with my kids, and I feel so bad. Like, I'm being really honest. Like, Sivan and I had an argument earlier in the year, and I yelled, like I really yelled. And then I heard my boys opened the door, and they were so scared because they heard me yell, and they were crying.
They'd never heard it before.
They'd never heard me kind of scream that way. Like, and I remember they were in their beds, and I remember kind of spooning up with them, and I could feel their heart beating because they were so scared. And for me, that was the greatest shame I've ever felt, where I was like, shit, my kids are scared of me. Like, how fucking scary is that? Like, my kids are scared of me. But I made really sure that they witnessed the repair. That was really, really important to me, where I was like, not just going to like pretend it didn't happen. Like, I really was like, hey, what daddy did was really bad. I was feeling A, B, and C. I was really scared at the time, and I was angry, and I yelled at your mum, and that is not okay.
So you're accountable. You know, that's what we're asking. Like, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we're not AI robots yet. We're humans with humans' emotion. We're going to fuck up. But like, to have that accountability, like,
And I was in my head for a little while of going like, who the hell am I to be doing this work when I lost my shit in that way? And
that's
that is
the part of it. That's you doing the work right now. Yeah.
Well, so Tom Harkin's wife, who's the CEO and founder of TommorowWoman and TommorowMan page, is easily the greatest leader I've ever had. I was opening up to her about it because she's like the master of being a boss, but then also just like holding space. And I was telling her how I felt, and she was like, dude, like, people feel that, like people do things like that where they lose their cool and they scream. And she completely normalized it for me. And she said, what you're doing puts you miles ahead of other people because
you've acknowledged it. You acknowledge it with your kids. You also
so
you rectified it like immediately. Mate, that is crazy. I threw something the other day. Something hit my foot.
Yeah.
This box that was being left in the house.
And you were annoyed that it was left in the house.
I was so annoyed. I was like, George, why is it still here? I've been living away for 6 months. And it wasn't the box
was there 6 months earlier?
It wasn't the box. It was, we've been living apart for 6 months and I don't get to see you. And then when I see you, anyway, I threw the box across the room. Like, I've never yelled. I've never thrown a box, but I was stressed. I was she was like, what are you doing? I don't know. I said, she's like, are you angry? Like, I'm angry. I'm sorry. I never get angry. And we went for a big walk the next day and that was it.
Love your walk. The walk's your secret weapon.
Yeah.
You know, there's a thing on that.
But I remember going, why am I so angry? But I'm not an angry person.
No,
but in that moment, she's like, you have never yelled before. I was like, I know. Well, first time for everything, but I haven't yelled since. Because we talked it out straight away and I realised it wasn't just the box. It was all the factors that were happening at the time. Living apart from each other, having no time to spend with each other, no quality time.
Yeah. There's a thing on the walking that men generally are more capable of being vulnerable when they're shoulder to shoulder than face to face.
Yeah, because you don't have the eyes.
You have to do the eye contact. So things like fishing or going to the footy or being at a bar at a pub or going for a walk or a run or a hike or whatever enables men more comfort to feel the opportunity for being vulnerable. And I think that's really beautiful.
I would say it's not just men because my partner loves side saddle.
She likes a side saddle.
Loves it. If we go out for dinner, she'll go, if there's a booth, or she's like, we'll sit next to each other, or can we take the bench that looks out over the street? Loves it.
So you know how you love driving like motorbike scooters and stuff?
Yeah, I love it.
You need to get one of those little side things.
The car for Tony.
You can be in and Tony can drive it.
She loves being on the back like a little koala.
You guys can have constant open chats wherever you go, whatever little road trips you want to do.
It needs to be higher up though, because when it's lower, there's a real power differential.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like with the side by side thing, I think it's a good starting level. But I also am really encouraging boys to like try to look at each other in the eye, like intimacy, like that. That's good as well.
I know about that a lot on this show that what happens when you eye gaze. We've had that conversation with all these house people. Yeah. So and you would have done some of Ash's.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I love that
men's
stuff.
circles. Yeah,
yeah. When you look into someone's eyes and you can see their like what they look like as a child, that's like.
Can you explain this to me? And this is what you're working with kids a lot. This is something that I've noticed over the last 20 years. Now I'm a middle-aged man. I notice these kids these days, but they don't look at each other in the eye. You don't look at, like, if I'm just buying something at, let's just say, a 7-Eleven, or if it's at the McDonald's drive-through window, which is very rarely, I'm on a diet. They just hold out the FPOS machine, or we've lost this, when we used to have cash, right? There's a moment that happened when I give you the cash, you count it, you look at me, you trust that I've given you the correct amount, then you quickly check it, put the money away, maybe there's some change, there's an exchange, there's an electricity that happens when you touch hands.
Yep. Energy.
And there's an energy that passes through.
Energy and exchange.
That is gone.
Yep.
This ease of pay pass and
go to regional towns. That's why I love regional towns.
They still have it.
Alive.
They're like, hey mate, how you going? How's your day?
Every boy, when we're in a regional town at the start of the workshop, every boy will walk in, they'll look me in the eye and they'll shake my hand or the facilitator's hand, and it's the best.
So
it's not happening in cities.
Well, Asher, I reckon, would, so I don't want to put words in Asher's mouth because that's making an assumption, and that's the third thing rule in the 4 agreements, which you have to read in order to be in Asher's men's circles. But this is an assumption that I think he would say it's a lack of soul, that we're not wanting to look into the eyes of the gateway to the soul.
Too vulnerable.
And we don't want to, it's too vulnerable. We don't want to go to soul land.
Why?
Because we're scared. Because if I see you, you're seeing me.
And you'll reject me.
I'm not going to reject
No,
you.
no.
but not in that whole feel like people sometimes they're too scared to be seen. Yeah.
So how do we?
How do we bring it back?
Yeah, how do we bring it back? How do we?
I reckon you guys could do some eye gazing in some workshops.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, because it's eye contact's so fun to play with in a workshop because we do this activity in our intimacy workshop where they're standing in a huge circle and you're making eye contact with different people and you get to track, like, I'm looking at Josh right now and he seems pretty, like, engaged and connected to me. But then I'm looking at Rob and his eyes are darting, so is he a bit uncomfortable? So we debrief it afterwards of, like, because you're looking at, like, consent at that point and intuition and going, am I making people comfortable? Yeah. How do I feel? And then it's a great conversation of being able to track, like...
This is something for, I mean, look, I'm not a parent. I'm not going to tell people about a parent, but
you're a cool uncle, though.
Thank you. I'm cool. I'm
Funkle.
a funkle. Yeah. This is some of the stuff I always trying to emulate this kind of behavior. So yeah, the kids will do that. I hear so many times that the teachers aren't doing enough. Like, the teachers only have so much time in a classroom to teach the stuff they're meant to teach, not all this extra.
My sister's a teacher and they're running from class to class to try and, like, they're getting slammed. Yeah. But that's where TommorowMan comes in and organisations like it. Hey, I feel like you guys have shared some really big stuff and I haven't also been open in this space. And I feel like I have, between my longer relationships, I, at times, have, like, definitely objectified women or raced towards sex. And not always was I clear about my intentions, about going, hey, really? I just want to have some fun with someone and have sex. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's the clear intention, if that's what's communicated. But I think I'd use charm and whatever to,
seal the deal.
Yeah. And maybe make women think that it could be more than that when really it was only that. And I have felt really shameful for that and have chatted about that with my psych and various other, important coaches or people who have impact on my life. And I just thought it was really important that I also share, because I'm asking you guys to be really vulnerable in this space. And I asked that of you at the start, like invited you to take off a mask, and you have on those issues. And I don't think it's fair that I don't.
No, thank you for sharing. Is it something that you consciously knew at the time, or like on reflection after the relationship? Like,
I think it's a narcissistic tendency of trying to just get like what I need.
That was your dopamine hit.
That was my dopamine hit.
I remember some relationships, like, which were probably friendships, but I think I talk about this in the book. Like, my only way I thought of connecting with someone was sexually. That was the only way I would actually connect, and then we would form a friendship afterwards. Of like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's why it was. I'd have this like friendship guilt. Or guilt friendship. No, guilt friendship, not a friendship guilt. Guilt friendship with them where like it has to be, I have to do this, where it can just be if it's consenting and both parties like, and that's me not wanting to be toxic, but actually in the process being super toxic or, not being misogynistic, whatever you want to call it, that's below the line behavior. And if I just at the start, and so going forward, if that's what I, feel like I need, I'm just the one who's just going to go, hey, I'm up for hanging out, but really, like, I'm like it's a sex thing.
Where I'm at.
Yeah, this is where I'm at.
Surely honesty is the best policy in that.
And if you're not cool with that, cool. And if you are cool with that, great. But letting someone think that it could be something else when it's never going to be something else, that's fucking manipulative. And I had to look at that.
No, yeah. It's great to hear you say that. Like, I had a boy a couple of weeks ago go, "You can't be friends with girls."
What?
I'm like, what?
You've got great female friends.
I know. He's being honest, but the culture at that school is kind of what you were saying was like, yeah, you have to hook up with girls or you can't be mates with them. And if you're mates with them, your mates are going to give you shit about it because you're being friends with girls and that kind of stuff, which is obviously like ridiculous and something we have to like disprove. But I really, appreciate you sharing that. But I do want to go back to what Rob asked, like when were you able to realise that? Because that's not easy to...
Yeah, probably post-COVID, like in the last half decade. Prior to that, a lot of it happened after my marriage broke up in 2015. And then I had another relationship that didn't work out, that didn't start until 2018. So those sort of few years, there was a lot of that. I wasn't really ready to meet someone, but I didn't know how to communicate that well. Yeah.
Mate, I think you're certainly not alone in this for a lot of blokes.
And a lot of what I share is because I've done the work to sort of look through that, and I can catch myself now if I want to, like I see that trait coming back, but there'll be men listening. They'll
be like, "Oh, I've just broken up with my missus," and now I'm on dating apps and I'm trying to date or trying to like meet new people and not being able to just say, "Hey, this is all I'm actually capable of at the moment."
Yeah, and it actually isn't also binary of going, I either want sex or want a full relationship. There's, like I heard the term the other day, situationship.
Oh yeah,
which is like, it's not a full relationship. It's a situation though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably a Gen Z term, but I just go, is that friends with benefits? No. It's more than friends with benefits. It's a situation. I'm like, okay, so we've got a spectrum here.
At least we've got,
so it depends on the situation.
Whatever the spectrum is, and wherever you are, really acknowledge and really sit in what you want and what you need right now and what you're capable of giving. More important, it's not just about you, what you can give. And be honest with that, and then share that. And if that's not going to be met, then walk away. That person's not wanting that, and that you don't have to try and make it work. Or like it's
trying to appease their actions instead of just actually saying what you want. Just be the adult or be a adult and say what you want.
So that's what I've learned. Being really clear with with what I want, and also be really clear with what other people want. That's awesome. If those things don't connect, that's cool.
At the very bare minimum for anyone listening, if you try to work out what you want and how you want it, and do the very simple test of the love languages.
Yeah.
It is. It's a game changer. I did it maybe 10 years ago. It is so good. Like, it works for your romantic relationships. It also works with your just friends as well.
Yeah.
You work out how they like to receive love and how they like to give love, or how you like to give love. It's just an absolute game changer.
Okay.
So when someone goes, "Oh, I'm offering you that lift to the airport," that's me. That is like I love
an active service.
I love an act of service.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Like Georgie buys me a gift. I'm like, great.
I'm the same. I gives out, but
It means nothing. You put that box away. Oh my god, basic.
yeah, acts of service and physical touch, and then words of affirmation, and then quality time, and then gifts. That's my order. Like I know that, and then tacos. Yeah,
Tacos number one.
yeah. Tacos. I love a taco.
Giving, receiving tacos, amazing.
Mills, do you have a quote you want to share with us?
Okay, so I got a couple of quotes.
Yeah.
This is okay. I'll be really quick.
No, it's fine.
One is, if it is to be, it is up to me. I really like it. It's just a really good motivational one of like, just get up. Just get up and do the thing. Also, I am super well aware that you do need a village and you need people around you and the tailwinds that push you along. So also acknowledge them. Georgie gave me a book to read when we first started dating. It was The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And the quote at the end, which made me cry the most, was, we accept the love we think we deserve. I think it's an excellent quote. Just let that sit with you for a hot second.
Yeah, wow, that's huge. I look back to relationships that haven't worked.
And we think we didn't deserve more. Like a lot of us, especially in Australia, we are a nation of neggers and tall poppy syndrome, and we don't really value ourselves. We've got great mateship, but maybe we don't honour ourselves and our own problems, and we don't want to burden others. So if we did take a bit more responsibility and a bit more self-love, self-care, self-awareness, we would get the thing that we really wanted, and that is the love that we do deserve.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
And the other one was I think it's a
Three quotes.
Three quotes. It's a
Well,
Roosevelt.
Ryder doesn't have a quote today.
I don't do quotes, so
Yeah,
you're
Ryder
doing
doesn't.
mine.
It's a Roosevelt quote, and I will not paraphrase it, but please someone look it up. It's about being the critic and about being the person in the arena. The critic is only ever going to be the critic, but they can say whatever they want. If you're the person actually in the room, in the arena doing the thing, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's a great one for an artist.
Oh, I think it's great. It's like, who cares what the critics think? Just
Yeah.
do the thing.
Because you cannot control what other people think, but you can control the way you go about it.
make the thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing that
It's
you
very
love.
stoic of you, actually.
Thank
it's
you.
very Marcus Aurelius. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've got one. It's from Robert Bly, who wrote the book Iron John, which I think every man should read.
Yeah.
It's a use of mythology and old storytelling to understand what it means to be a man.
I've got some of his stuff in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Bly is great. So I'm going to aim this more at Ryder because I feel like, Mills, you've uncovered a bit of this stuff. We spend our life until we're 20 deciding what parts of ourselves to put into the bag, and we spend the rest of our lives trying to get them out. So what are those things? And I think you've sort of talked about it with the young boys, that they had all these behaviours and then it all got put in the bag. And then if they're going to do the work, it's actually about pulling them all out. But I want to know with you, Ryder, what's some of the stuff that you've had to sort of, because you've had various iterations of yourself, and what sort of things have you had to sort of go, hey, that's been in the bag, I need to take that out because that's my authentic self?
I think I've been pretty lucky, like, because my parents, like, just supported me with unapologetically no matter what. I've always been really flamboyant and out there, so
I've always loved that about you.
Yeah, I love being flamboyant, and it's really served me in this work. Like if I'm in a rough environment, like running a scary workshop, like in like a rugby club in a regional town, I'll go straight up to the alpha and I'll go, "Why are you smiling at me?" I'm like, "I'm so lovely. I'm like the nicest guy ever, and you're looking at me all staunch. How dare you?" And all the boys laughed and erupt, and he doesn't know what to say because he has to go like, oh, like he either smiles or he goes, "No, we're all good." So I think like the thing that will always be out of my bag would be being flamboyant and being out there.
Yeah, good.
And yeah, that suits me. But a quote did come into my head, which I think kind of adds to this.
What? You're going to say a quote?
I know.
Right off air, it was like, I don't do quotes.
I was like, I don't do quotes.
I even got an email a couple of days ago saying, I don't do quotes.
I don't do quotes. Did I not link you into it? Okay. Anyway, Jim Stein's one of the greatest mentors, leaders I've ever known. He always used to say in workshops, boys don't cry, men do. In his beautiful Irish accent, which I'm not going to try to do. And I just
I was waiting for the accent.
Yeah. I'm not going to bother. I'll leave accents to you guys. But
I feel like Mills and I were like thinking of it probably. I didn't go there because we're like, maybe we don't have a good one. Also, we're friends with Bobby Fox and he's going to probably listen to this.
I've heard Jim say it.
And it was the best. It was just the best because the boy or whoever he was saying it to was just so like disarmed by that. Yeah. And like I caught up with a guy today just before this podcast, and he's started an initiative called It's Cool to Cry. And that's the whole thing. Like all boys do it. They're so embarrassed that they do it, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like it's literally the most masculine, courageous thing you can do. Take your armor off and shed some tears. And as we said earlier, whatever metaphor we used, feels good.
It does. Yeah. Let off the pressure valve.
Yeah.
Because you're guaranteed to feel better. I remember when I was a kid, Mum would say, go off and have a cry, go to bed, have a cry. And then I'd come back. She goes, you feel better, don't you? This weird positive psychology. She didn't ask me, do I feel better? Yeah. She said, you feel better, don't you?
Robert?
And I'm like, dude.
Thanks, Mum.
Whatever witchcraft that was, thanks, Mum. It actually works. And I still do it now. And I realised some of the best times of my life, like continual moments of, long-term phases of my life that I felt good were the moments that I was crying throughout it. Mm-hmm. The times that were the hardest were the times that I was white-knuckling. I'm going to hold all my shit together as long as I can. And then I was stressed.
It's the
time it's the surrender. Just cry, let it out. Watch a sad movie or listen to a sad song that gets you there. Whatever gets you there.
Yeah. But that is the art. Like with a man, we want to either run away from it. That's the sort of flight response. The fight response is to muscle our way through it. And then the surrender. And I had that a lot with anxiety. The ice was my key, my ticket to surrender. Because
the breath work.
Because
sorry, I thought you meant the ice. Like you should say off the meth.
Sorry, mate.
I was like, that would only make me more anxious.
The ice part. Like that is where I really learnt what the feeling of surrender was. I didn't have to fight my anxiety, but it's really fighting feelings. You know,
that first time I did with our mate Duncan.
Duncan's our mate.
Yeah. He's the best.
Yeah.
I felt this weight on my chest, and within 30 seconds, I started crying. And he said, "That's all right. You're just holding on to some grief. You're just grieving something." And I was like, he's super calm and chill. And I went, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." When I got out later and we talked about it, he's like, "Yeah, you're just holding on to some stuff." And it comes up straight away because it's your fear and your anxiety and your grief and all the things you're holding on to. You can't hide from it in the ice.
Lets it out.
Now, I love a bloody ice bath and cold shower, and because I know
that I can go. It's like safe to surrender there.
Oh, surrender.
One of my favorite things about your relationship with Duncan, who's my former business partner, is that when I don't think you told him at the time, but maybe on reflection you did. You were playing Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar, and you needed to get into it was a lot of topless stuff. So you wanted to get into the gym.
Wrong musical, sorry.
Yeah, Joseph, the other biblical one. The other biblical Angelo Good one. So you went to Duncan for some PT sessions, but ultimately, I think you said what kept you going is that he was your character research for Jesus, because he was so turn the other cheek, so calm, no matter what the storm. I was just like, this is it. I'm getting buff, but I'm also learning what Jesus is.
I learned so much from him, and still do. He's a beautiful man, super calm, super kind.
Got to get Duncan on the potty.
Yeah, he's a very good human.
Yeah,
get him before he moves.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to release his information too much, guys. I wanted, obviously the start of the topic we I shared some stats around suicide, and there's a senior researcher at the Black Dog Institute called Fiona Shand, and she has done a research paper into suicide prevention. That's what her specialty is. She's done a lot of stuff on that. And a particular paper looks at the suicide notes the men leave and the words that are in those notes. And some of the words are and these are on repeat, the C's and C's and C's, are useless and worthless. Things like, you'll be better off without me, or I was a burden, or I am a burden. Why do men feel worthless or useless, or ultimately like they don't have a place in the world, like they're not needed?
Look,
This could be the heaviest part about you.
I think we all feel this, right?
Yep.
Every human being has at one point or another in their life probably felt like they're a bit useless. They're not good at their job. But if you don't ever express that over years and years and years, that's the one story that you keep telling yourself. If I said, I just can't sing, like I just can't do it, Josh would be like, you can sing a bit, you're fine. Or if I'd never said it out loud, that was just my internal monologue forever. Oh, that was my job. I was going out every night, like trying to sing, but telling myself that I couldn't sing.
Yeah.
And if I never expressed it, it would be horrific. I think it goes back to what we were saying before about blokes needing to put their hand up, being vulnerable, and just saying, I don't feel great at the moment. I'm not okay. I don't feel worthy in this moment.
Or empowered in this
Or
moment.
in this moment.
Or purposeful in this moment.
Or at the moment. I just feel a bit useless right now. Because over time, if that's all you're feeling, you never said it out loud, that's why you're feeling that way still.
And me as a mate, pretend mate, going, that's okay. And me not trying to fix you or give you too many beers or whack you on the back going, hey, it's okay. No, you're not useless at all, and freaking out. Like just actually being able to sit with you and go, hey, no matter how you're feeling as a mate, I fucking love you and I got you.
Or I've also felt useless at times as well.
Exactly. So it's when we're trying to fix or give advice when people are feeling that way, I think that's problematic. And there's also an interesting stat that Triple M put out where it's like 70% of men want to help their mates, but 48% of men don't want to ask their mates for help. So what that means is every guy wants to help their friend because it's powerful, I'm looking after you, but I don't need help, I'm all good. I'll deal with it myself. But if my mates need me, I'm there for them. So that leaves us in this gridlock where we only want to help, we don't want to receive the help. So I always tell guys and boys, we're intuitive. I can sense if my mate's off. Rather than me going, are you okay? Can I help you? Let me be the hero. I need to make myself vulnerable first to show that
with vulnerability.
That I'm actually willing to get in the trenches with you, and I'm not some perfect person that has no issues that only wants to help. I struggle too, and I feel shame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just about normalizing it by being, you have to be the first one.
Yeah. That's the hard thing. It's being courageous enough to create the safe space for your mates. It's difficult for a lot of blokes because we still have this, I need to be the fixer, I need to be the macho one but I guarantee you'll have better conversations, you'll have a better connection with your mates, you'll get to learn so much more about them if you create the safe space. And if no one in your friend group is going to do it and you're thinking about it, it's you. It's just you.
But once you do, it's the lead up is the scary part. So I imagine it's like when you first jump, before you jump into the ice, you've got all these thoughts in your heads going, they don't want to hear this, or it's going to make them not like me, or
a future false projection.
Yeah. And then if you can just like slow down your breath and just like calm the fuck down and
be there.
Be there and then do it. It's pushing past those thoughts and all those things your body and mind's telling you to do. But once you do it, there's a huge relief where everyone's like, yeah, as you said, I feel the same way. Or
this is now I'm thinking about this is not too dissimilar to relationships that you have with your partner and things that you need to talk about that you probably don't talk about. I talk about this with Georgie about saying we've got to beat the boss. We've got to level up. To level up in your relationship, you've got to beat the boss. And the boss is often the hard conversation. Nobody wants to have that conversation because that's the tension point. Could this break our relationship? No. It just means we can have a discussion about it.
Sometimes it does.
And then, but that's the risk. That's the vulnerable part about having that tough conversation.
And you'd rather break it than have this false glue that's holding it together.
So I think for a lot of people, they just don't have the conversation because they're fearful of breaking that thing that's so fragile and beautiful, whether it's a relationship or friendship or. But you have to.
You've got to face Cooper Trooper.
You got to exactly. You got to be the boss.
Yeah.
You got to level up, or else you're stuck in your, I don't know, emotional limbo, or in this case for a lot of blokes, it's sadness.
And
that's higher stakes though. I think if what we're trying to tell boys or men listening to this of going, for sure, like having to have a chat to your partner about like a pattern or something that's like needs to be fixed in your relationship. I agree that could potentially make or break the relationship. I think what we're trying to tell guys is this is more about opening up to a mate about how you're feeling or what you're struggling with. And I reckon so much more likely than less, it will make the friendship stronger.
But also,
they might be awkward and they might not know what to say. They might go, I don't really know what to say to that. And you might have to go, that's okay. I just wanted to say it.
Yeah. At the root of it though, it may just help one man or two men or 10 men or 2,500 men go, I am worthy, I am needed, I am enough, I am love, I do have connection, you know. These are all the things that I assume, I've never been in that moment, that if you take your own life, you have chosen that.
There's nothing else.
Because you're, as I said, that they're not needed. They don't feel needed. So to have a mate who is brave enough to say, hey mate, I need you. Yeah.
And it's
get around your homies, tell them you love them.
For sure.
All the time. Hug them.
Like 50% of Australian men feel lonely, which is wild because these people have people around them.
Yeah.
There's just no depth or quality of relationship.
Yeah.
Like
go fishing, go on that side to side walk, shoulder to shoulder stuff. Yeah.
Like
say the things.
The mate the mate of a mate who took his life a few weeks ago, when he went missing, he had 100 people looking for him.
Oh God.
100 people. His mates, family members. So I always think like, what did he need? Like, what did he need? Because he had the people, just no one knew what was going on for him. So I think to answer your question from the start, it's just we need to talk about everything, not just the good times, because we know men are great when life's going well. We need to talk about the murky, icky, yucky stuff that we've done too. And hopefully by this conversation, every time you guys have shared something vulnerable or like felt a bit risky, I felt alive. I was like, this is fucking exciting.
And ultimately, like we'll finish this chat, we'll have a little debrief and a little meditate, and we'll never forget this chat because it's brought all of us closer together. You know, that's the power of having these vulnerable chats. We're having it with mics in front of our faces, which hopefully will help other men to want to have these conversations without mics in front of their faces. But it's actually had a really positive impact on us that I'm not even making assumptions. I know that about all of us because you can feel that energy in this space. I want to ask one last thing, which is what advice, if you were to look at the little Rob or the little Ryder, that inner child or that version of yourself, you sit next to that version of yourself, what advice would you give to that version of yourself?
In my version, little Ryder's got a mustache, and I just had to.
He's got the same hair. He's got no. He was a late bloomer, bless him.
He's got long. I want him to have long hair, but still a mustache. Almost like those footy ads with
the nab ads.
Definitely no mustache, but beautiful hair.
Good. I love that. Yeah. So jealous. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful mane. What would I say?
Yeah,
mate, I would.
What would you tell him?
It's all going to work out, obviously. I would say, just do the things. Don't be scared. Like I dropped out of drama in year 12 because I was so scared about performing in front of people. I still did music, sang at like lunchtime concerts and stuff, but I didn't really try hard for my exams because I was like, I don't really like it. No one really wants to hear me sing. But I love the performance aspect of it. But yeah, I would just say, what do you got to lose, mate? Just go for it. Absolutely go for it. Do all the things that make you happy. Yeah. Don't drop out of drama. There's so much you can learn from it. Yeah.
Amazing. Like, I'd probably say to him, like, just calm the fuck down. Like, you have this superpower. It's not all about you. You don't need the attention all the time. Like, lift people up, like lift others up and make others feel as special, as magical as you do. Like, because I ended up doing that, but it took me a long time. I needed the spotlight for too long, where it was like, just keep giving that love and don't be ashamed of how affectionate you are. Like, just keep giving that love and keep lifting others up.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
It's a beautiful gift.
It's a really beautiful gift. Ryder, Rob.
Well, what about you?
I would say to my younger self, don't be in such a rush. Whatever it is that you're going after, or whatever it is you need to, whatever mountains you need to climb, you know, you can be the tortoise. You don't have to be the hare. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Guys, Rob, Ryder, thank you so much for coming on the Behind the Mask podcast. I feel like, as I said earlier, we're closer for these chats, and I hope that the men and the partners of men and women and whoever is out there listening to this, feels like they're heard and seen in all of their stuff too, because this this thing that we call life asks so much of us, and I feel like we've uncovered some pretty important conversations.
Thanks, man. Loved it.
Thanks, Chance. Appreciate it.